This couldn't have happened at a worse time.
Jai London was angry, not because he was being attacked by a small, stupid scavenger ship, but because the initial blast from said ship had sent a quake strong enough to knock his coffee out of the cup holder on his cockpit center console, covering his pants in a warm, dark liquid. Now he had to fight for his life in wet pants. His small zip Nebula-Class starship jounced once again.
Scavengers!
He said out loud to himself. He tapped the hollow view screen in front of him, and footage of outside the rear of his ship popped up in a small rectangle. Jai examined the scavenger ship and calculated his chances of outrunning them. An alarm buzzed on his hollow screen, and the words "Blast Imminent" began flashing in red. He shot his left hand over to a pressure pad next to him and pushed down, sending his craft into a side roll maneuver to avoid the imminent blast.
Enough of this!
He tapped the hollow screen to engage a jump through the Euclidean grid that would send him anywhere but here. An expensive Nebula-Class spaceship could access the grid and make a jump in between 3 to 5 seconds. A cheap old ship like the one his bosses gave him for this delivery would struggle to make the jump in under 15 to 20 seconds.
Come on, let's go!
He thought banging on the console would speed things up. He was wrong. He checked the progress bar. 5 seconds left. The lights on the entire ship shut off, the console went dead, and the engines went silent.
You're kidding me!
Surprisingly, Jai's first thought was,
I don't want to die in wet pants.
Next was,
did I push the ship too far?
Then,
did the scavengers use a power net?
A voice came through the intercom in a rough alien language.
Anush de Carvel.
But Jai couldn't understand, so he yelled back.
English! You've busted my translator!
He knew as soon as he heard the voice that it had been a scavenger power net. An unavoidable literal net pumped full of quantum electricity that could stop a small spaceship in its tracks. The voice cleared its throat and said,
Prepare to be boarded.
Jai slumped in his chair and waited for the convocation to force their way onto his ship, steal all the cargo, and most likely leave no witnesses. He'd never had a run-in with scavengers before, but in his line of work, as an interplanetary courier, he'd heard stories. A loud clang echoed throughout the cabin of the ship. He knew exactly what that sound was. The scavenger ship had docked with his, and now the process of cracking the keypad on the airlock would begin. In a shorter time than he had anticipated, the motley crew made their way in and made their way to the cockpit. He could hear them laughing and yapping in their disgusting alien language. A tall, skinny humanoid with cybernetic arms made his way up to Jai, who hadn't moved and was still slumped in his seat.
Good night, Princess.
Jai woke with a splitting headache and gasped like he forgot how to breathe. He grabbed his head with both hands and squeezed in a feeble attempt to extirpate the throbbing of his mind. He had been knocked out by a neural kicker, a staple of the scavenger toolkit that can disrupt the victim's brainwaves and trick it into sleeping.
Son of a...
His thought was cut short as he started to extrapolate his current situation. The sudden realization that he was now laying in grass hit him like a jolt from a blaster. He sat up as fast as you could say,
Bitch!
Bewildered, he scanned his surroundings, noting a lush green landscape full of giant trees and great mountains. He took out his glass handheld device to pinpoint his location in the known. Thankfully, the scavengers had left him with this. The young man checked the surroundings to see if he could work out where he was before his device could. Often these types of mind games would help him focus rather than be drained by the boredom of long intergalactic travel between deliveries.
Viridis.
Jai spun around at the sound of a strange voice from behind him.
Whoa!
There was an aura drone floating behind him. Its spherical body had been badly damaged and was covered in scratches and dints. It looked like it had been through a war. Jai's glass chimed, and the word Viridis appeared on the screen.
Viridis?
The throbbing in his head returned, or it had never left. It had passed for a moment, but now was back in full force. The drone circled him at a slow, examining pace.
Yes, unfortunately. Did you crash?
Obviously, the drone's vocal projector wasn't damaged, but the rest of it looked awful. The problem with being zapped by a neural kicker was one of the main side effects was short-term memory loss. Thankfully, if you tried hard enough, you could squeeze a memory out here and there.
I was making a delivery, nowhere near here, and I was caught by some scavengers.
He rubbed the back of his neck to try and loosen his constricted muscles.
They must have used a neural kicker, knocked me on my ass, dumped me here, and took my ship.
The drone lowered to align with the human's eyes, tilted, then glowed an orange hue.
Scavengers? Neural kicker?
It sounded confused, but drones were supposed to know everything. Every drone across the known was linked by a network of instantaneous communication called the Neuroland, but this drone, however, seemed to be out of touch. Jai held his glass up and scanned the Aura drone. It chimed and showed a serial number beginning with the letter A.
Oh, wow.
His mind was flooded with thousands of questions after the screaming realization that this very Aura drone before him was one of the first models ever made. It must have been hundreds of years old.
Wait, why are you here? Viridis is an uninhabited world.
The drone slowly began to circle the young man once again.
I don't exactly know why I'm here on Viridis. All I know is when I access my digital memory archives, there is missing data.
Jai glanced at the drone's damaged body.
Well, yeah, it looks like you've been through a rough patch.
He felt a sudden alarum surge up into his heart. A question burned in his mind that he already may have known the answer to, but didn't want to hear it out loud.
Wait, so I'm guessing there is no ship here, otherwise you would have left by now?
You are correct. I have searched the whole planet, but I have been unable to locate any signs of life or hints of technology. Unfortunately, I am also unable to access the Neuroland.
Jai felt his whole body slowly sinking into the lush green grass beneath him. Figuratively, however real it felt.
How long have you been stranded here?
I've never thought about it because time is really a human construct. But I'd say centuries.